Hello, sir.
Hey, Pat.
20 years in the making, this podcast.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's fantastic, yeah.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for coming in. World-class flamenco guitarist extraordinaire. But to me, don't push the fake news button on that, but to me, you'll always be kind of little Paul Bosauder in the basement of a building in East Auckland, building a set out of trestle tables and bricks and our own lighting and putting on gigs in East Auckland and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was late 90s. That was more. Wait, ready for this?
Yeah,
more than 20 years ago.
That was more than 20 years ago. Yeah, well,
more than 20 years ago.
Playing in bands with Mish, with a younger brother,
little brother Mish,
yeah.
And he's off, and you're now based in Spain and doing flamenco music.
Yeah, that's been about the last 12 years. So I moved to Spain 12 years ago.
I feel like we need to start as we mean to continue. So let's load up that locked out video because
straight in, Pat?
I think we got to get straight in there because this will give people a bit of an understanding. Also, I think there's some really interesting questions to ask about this to where you were. Yeah. So the thing about this that's a bit scary is I know half your secrets and you know half mine.
Oh my God!
So let's have a little bit of this. I'm sure we won't get pulled for this because it's Paul's music. So this is, what year is this? Look at that security guard. You made me look 9 foot tall.
That was Pat. You're the best manager, man.
Look at that, 9 foot tall with the biggest sideburns in the world.
Oh my God!
And look for the bare chest coming up shortly. Having to duck under every hallway. What was this? Was a ship, wasn't it?
That was the HMS Wellington.
So was it a decommissioned or was it an active Navy ship?
It was decommissioned.
Look at that.
It's actually, they sunk that.
Oh, that was decommissioned.
Yeah.
So there was this music video, I thought 90s. When was this made?
This was 2002, 2001.
Look at how do sailors actually survive? I'm having to duck even walking down the corridor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 6'3", but I'm not like, Shaquille O'Neal 7'2". It's like, to be a sailor, you must have to be 5'8" and below or something.
I don't think so.
So this is early 2000s. Are we going
totally.
with that?
Yeah, totally.
And the band was called Soda, S-O-D-A.
Yeah.
And it was called Soda because one of your friends, look at that goatee. We've got to wait for the Backstreet Boys moment though.
Yeah.
One of your mates called you Paul Bosauder, and that was the name, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I guess my last name was pretty strange by New Zealand standards, so I've heard pretty much every variation on it.
Let's have some Backstreet Boys imagery. Here we go.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
Oh, volume! Woo! Okay, 2000s.
Technique, yeah.
Now, no, we just said no funding for this. This was off your own pocket.
Yeah, we funded this. Well, we'd already made a couple of albums, and so we were doing lots of gigs and saving up all our money, and then putting it back into making this video. And the guys from Zoom Slide, they helped us out a lot. Mark Somerville, he directed this.
Were those the guys who made the Stereogram?
Yeah, they did the Stereogram ones too.
The walkie-talkie man.
Yeah.
Sheesh, that brings you back a few things. Look at that. And you weren't involved with the themes around this music?
No, this was Mark. Mark really, he had a good time making this, I think, too.
Yeah. And that's your little brother Mish?
Yeah, little brother Mish.
About 6, how old was there, getting grinded on by some cute young thing? Oh, those were the days. Now, look, there's something, because the thing that really interests me is you were in a place in your music career which really was, there we go, screaming guitars.
Yeah.
Foo Fighter setups, that kind of world you were moving into. Very Foo Fighter?
Yeah.
You think? There's a really good bridge coming up here, which is just guitars. But I'm intrigued as to your journey. Is this the bridge here?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, let's hear the guitars. Turn this up, let's hear the guitars. So, to go from that... It's good, eh?
Yeah.
When did you last listen to this?
Probably about 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Just every now and again?
Visiting my parents, and they've got a couple of copies of Concrete, the album. That's the only time I get to listen to it.
And whilst we're going, and this will be a longer conversation, but can you bring up the event finder there, Tommy Buns? And because on the event finder, there's a little video of you playing now. Let's lose the soda stuff.
Oh yeah.
That would be helpful. Now scroll down and just play the video because it's a really interesting. I mean, I look at this as to being a really interesting story because you've gone from, I'm saying Foo Fighter-ish, it has that kind of feel to it, to very much, very very much just shut down the tab altogether, bro. Yep, get rid of it. Goodbye. There you go. Very much a very different style of music, and I'm intrigued. Let's have a listen to this for a second or two. You know, buttress those up against each other, and it's just really interesting. So tell me, you went from soda, pop rock, wanting to dominate the world, being a pop rock / rock band, screaming guitars, you know, writing songs, getting funded. You had New Zealand Air funding for the next video?
Yeah, we did. We got New Zealand Air funding. Well, I guess, you know what? I mean, Pat, I've always loved music. And you know, my family, everyone plays music. My older brother, my sister played the bass, and she was in a great band called Gina's Revenge. And Misha and I, we loved playing music. I had a cousin who was a classical guitarist, a concert guitarist, Edric Corbin Banks. He was, you know, fantastic. So I guess there's always been this drive to play music and to explore. And I think I kind of felt like with the whole soda thing, we got to a point where it was really hard to go any further, you know? Because we were really hard.
You got the cap. You reached that cap.
I don't know if there was, maybe there was another level to go to, but we'd been in the band for 8 years, and I was about 24 at that point, and I just wanted to go traveling overseas. I wanted to explore. I wanted to learn new languages. I wanted to discover my Lebanese roots, which were a part of my culture. Yeah. So, you know, I just thought, well, it's just time to try a new phase in life, and it was a hard decision to make. You know, ending what is your family? You know, we were a family. We were good buddies, and then to go traveling by myself, and I left with a guitar and a backpack, and I said, let's go. Well, let's see what happens. And
because you were a musician in a band, but your profession there was engineer.
Yeah.
So you were an engineer.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Doing music on the weekends, not to patronise, but sort of doing music on the weekends.
No, well, it was kind of doing music in all the other hours that I wasn't trying to make money and pay rent, you know. Really, that's what it was like, you know. It was I mean, actually, I want to say, when we made Concrete, I would go to work for 4 hours in the morning or something. Then we'd go into the studio, we'd work all through the morning till the sun came up. I'd go home, sleep for 20 minutes, and then go into work again. And that went on for about a month. Right. I think there was a point where we were just seeing things, you know. It's real hard, you know, when you want to do music and you've got to fund yourself and you've got to pay your rent, you've got to eat, and you've just got to work hard, you know. It wasn't easy at all. Yeah.
So you realised that Soda, the band, that was literally the website, wasn't it? SodaTheBand.com from memory. Yeah, it was. Did you see I put on Instagram not too long ago, I found the business cards for Soda.
Oh, yeah, I did. I saw that.
And I've got the same phone number, so I just kind of slightly put something across so you wouldn't see the phone number. And it had travelled its journey. It had finished. It had come to the end.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And did you have a plan, or did you just kind of go, I want to do something different? I just want to break, so I'm going to travel.
I had no idea. I just wanted to go overseas, and I actually was going to learn Arabic music, I thought. I'd go to Lebanon, learn some Arabic music. I didn't know anything about flamenco. I didn't speak Spanish. I probably would struggle to know where Spain was exactly in the map or anything, and I just turned up. I went to the States first and hung out for 4 months. I didn't even play guitar then. I just studied Arabic, met some guys. We started a band. After a while, I got motivated with the guitar again, and we did a little tour in the States with these guys.
What were you playing?
There was kind of this weird sort of country bluegrass thing with a violin and this guy Andrew Fox, who's, you know, I think a really talented musician. He lives in New York now. He's doing really well. Yeah. And then I went to Lebanon, and in Lebanon I started playing in this hotel. Then I just would sing a few covers, and then I got into this theatre. And this theatre was produced by Michel Efteriades, who was a really famous Lebanese producer. He heard me sing, and he said, "Oh, wow, you're great. You should come and sing with my band." And in that band there was this gypsy guitar player. And actually the musicians from all over the world, Cubans, Romanians, and they were just all brilliant. I thought, these guys are all such brilliant musicians, and I just know how to strum 4 chords and sing a bit. You know, I felt quite intimidated by them, to be honest, you know. And I decided, you know, I want to learn. I want to study music. I want to become a good musician, you know, not just jam out some chords. Yep. Yeah. So I did. I just left that great job, and I jumped on a plane. In all of my ignorance, I just travelled across to Spain, bought a book about flamenco and a guitar, and I said,
So just to have a look, the musicians that inspired you in that moment, was that flamenco, or was that just like an eclectic group of musicians of which flamenco is one sort of passion?
Well, they were definitely an eclectic group of musicians, but the guy who really inspired me the most was a guy, Jose Fernandez, who was a fantastic flamenco player. Actually, I saw him on Facebook just recently, and I thought, wow, he really was good, you know. And he would just sing backstage and accompany himself with a guitar, playing traditional flamenco songs. And I was just like, whoa, incredible. And
so
the
that
rhythm
wasn't necessarily what the band was doing. That was something that he did
on the side.
That he had a passion for.
Yeah, he was doing it on the side because he was bored. You know, we're just sitting backstage, and while we were waiting for our turn to sing or play, if you imagine a cabaret performance, so I'd literally go on, play 2 songs, and come off, and that was my job. I had to do it twice a week. Lot of spare time.
That's not a bad job.
No, it was nice, you know.
You can earn enough to survive off doing that.
Crazy. It was totally like that. It was like literally, and you weren't allowed to play anywhere else because it was exclusive. So the theatre, you know, it would sit 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Big theatre, so they could afford to pay you, you know. And that was it. But I just remember sitting down, hearing him play and accompany himself. And just the rhythm, you know, he'd sort of do Bularia. And just playing these great rhythms with his foot and the guitar at the same time.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, whoa, what's that?
So you saw flamenco almost, even though he was obviously a professional, but not in a professional context, more like in a, not quite social, but in a relaxed style, and that drew you to it?
But it was.
Was there any other music that you felt drawn towards about? Was that like the love of your life? You saw it and you just knew?
Well, I still didn't really know what it was.
Right.
I just knew I had to explore it a bit further. So I went there, and one of the things that really struck me about it was that it was a social music. That it was something you would do around a table with your buddies. It wasn't necessarily something you'd do on stage. Mm-hmm. I didn't really see it like that at the start. It was just, I remember going to Spain, sitting around a table in this bar, and there was this guy singing, and the other guy playing guitar, and they were just sort of passing the guitar around the table, and everyone's hanging out. We were there to 4 or 5 in the morning, playing these flamenco styles, and everyone just singing and drinking and having a great time. It was like, whoa, this is fantastic. This is music that isn't about trying to take over the world or trying to get a deal or trying to do this or that. It felt refreshing to me for that reason, I guess.
It's funny you talk about that, and it makes me think of like being on a marae.
Yeah.
You know, just passing around the guitar, having a few drinks, everyone having a turn singing, that sort of whānau community kind of feel.
Yeah, man, it was totally community.
I've had some interactions through, you know, family members and people I know with the Spanish world, and you see a lot of that sort of, you know, the community and family vibe running through it. You know, looking after the elderly, having them come and live with you at home, not tucking them away in an old folks' home sort of thing. And how you're describing it just makes you think of that all over again, about how you can see those similarities between, you know, the culture of it, if you want to put it that way.
Totally. Well, I mean, that's Spain, you know, when you hang out in the square, they have these big squares in the cities, and everyone's there, the drug addicts, the little kids, the grandpas, the grandmas, the young people having a drink, going to a restaurant, they're all in the same space, sharing it, making noise, playing the guitar, kicking a football around. It's just, there's just a sense of community in Spain just because of the way the cities are structured, the way the culture is. They love to do everything in groups together. You know, it's special, yeah. I reckon that's something that really struck me. Whereas, you know, New Zealand, I love being here in New Zealand, but it's true. We get in our cars, we drive from our homes to our work. From our work, we go meet a buddy for a beer. Then we drive home again. You know, it's everybody's so isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you feel, or did you find a similarity between your Lebanese roots and the Spanish roots? Is there that sort of Middle Eastern European vibe that crosses over, or is that again very different?
I reckon the Mediterranean, all of the Mediterranean shares a common thread, yeah? That the importance of family, the importance of sitting down with a meal and having a glass of wine, the temperature, it's hot, it's warm, it's exciting. I don't know. In fact, I reckon there is a similarity in all of the music in the Mediterranean. There's sort of a modal chant you can see in Greek music too. Even in Portuguese music, which isn't, I don't really think that's the Mediterranean, but it's still similar in fado. So all of that part of the world has a common thread, cultural thread, yeah.
Which probably makes sense, because if you're kind of all bordering sort of a body of water, for thousands of years, cultures are going to have mixed I'm not saying very easily like no conflict, but easily accessible to one another. So there must be a thread that carries through.
You know, it's funny because in Spain, it's, you know, they always say, oh, you're a foreigner playing flamenco or this and that, and you're coming to Spain. You know, people always look for a way to justify it. Maybe could say, well, I'm Lebanese, so the Phoenicians, we got here first.
So is Spain definitely home now? Like, is that home for the foreseeable future? No plans to do anything else, or is that still part? Are you still journeying?
I feel like I'm still journeying. I love being in Spain, and there was a moment where it was even actually probably felt more like home. Like for the last 2 years, I've been traveling so much to the States, to Mexico twice, Cayman Islands, back home twice too. So I've been traveling so much, and every time I come back to New Zealand, I sort of feel at home and nostalgic. And especially I come here and it's summer. I get to go surfing and hang out on the beach and meet great people and play lots of nice concerts and theatres. So it feels really nice to be back. Yeah, totally. So I kind of feel nostalgic about being here, you know. And then I get back to Spain and I'm back in my flamenco world, and it's so productive and I'm learning so much. It's stimulating, yeah. So I don't really, at the moment, I don't see a way to just stay in one place. I feel like I need to be traveling. So
it feels like you're saying that there's a connection and you're rooted in Spain, but that may not be forever.
No, I don't know if it'll be forever. I'll see.
So about 2008 you got there. So what happened when you got there? So you said you got to Spain, you picked up a book. Then what?
Oh, well, I got there in 2007,
right,
in October, yeah. By that point I actually managed to get into a conservatory, like a really basic sort of music school.
Okay.
I turned up there and I rock into this place and everyone's like, okay.
Not speaking Spanish?
At that point I'd been studying Spanish for 2 years. I could speak, I could hold a basic conversation, say, hi, how are you? Almost enough to be able to convince someone to let me live with them, like ringing up people to try and interview for an apartment. That was hard, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And I rocked up there and it was like, I was kind of disappointed because I was in this music school and it felt cold. It didn't feel like family. It felt like lots of guitarists in little rooms learning flamenco from sheet music. And that wasn't what I'd envisaged, you know. And so I was like the bad boy from the conservatory, maybe. They looked at me badly because I would, you know, go and hang out with the gypsies. I'd go to the dance school. I'd be playing in the square at night until 5 a.m, and then coming to class with beer all over my guitar case. And my guitar teacher said to me, I think you're more flamenco than a concert guitarist. And I said, maybe you're right.
And was that like the education in Spain? Is it sort of more prim and proper than what you'd find in the pubs and clubs? Like, is there a culture of being proper in an education facility?
Oh, totally. I mean, it was a conservatory where people would go with a classical background to learn. And I think it's valid, you know, I think it's really important. I mean, I came back to that 3 years later. I sat the entrance exam for a really well-known flamenco conservatory in ESMUC in Barcelona. And I spent 6 years studying with Rafael Canizares, who was this fantastic maestro. And he took one look at me and he said, no, we've got to work.
Right.
And that was a really important process. But it was a really important process
meaning he's like, you ain't got it yet, son.
Basically, he just said, you know, you need to learn the technique properly. You need to work on this. We changed everything. And it was a lot of hard work. And it was, 16 hours a day sometimes, locked in a little room. But having said that, without the culture, without having spent those 3 or 4 years on the street, and after that, continuing to make time for that experience, I think flamenco is cold. You know, when you grow up in Spain, you live that stuff on a day-to-day basis. But when you come from far away, you need to make time for that culture to understand it,
It makes me think of, it sounds weird, but it makes me think of, there's a clip in Good Will Hunting when Will is talking to the Robin, what's his name, the comedian? Robin Williams character. Yeah. And Robin Williams basically says to him, you can tell me every fact and figure about, the Mona Lisa or this or that. You can, you know it all. And he goes, but you don't know what the Louvre smells like. Yeah. You've never been immersed in it. You've never been a part of the culture of what the Mona Lisa is and around the Mona Lisa, but you know everything from a book. It sounds like that's kind of what you're saying, the difference between.
I mean, you have to spend, that magic happens at night. You're at night, I mean, there will be nights there I've been with really famous artists, and I'm just like a fly on the wall. Right. But that experience is like, that's incredible for me. That's what you get when you live there. Those nights when I'm sitting there and just listening the whole night, just having my hand while somebody else sings and plays. And at that point, I've got no desire to pick up a guitar or I'm just trying to observe and learn and be a part of it. I mean, that's the thing about flamenco. There is just no end to the learning ever, and there's just so much to learn. And there are some people who grew up with it, and those people have something very, very special.
Yeah.
For me, you know.
And will always have it. You can never get that, like from a performance point of view.
I don't know. It's different when you go to present a project and you're composing some music and you're preparing something. I think for me, something that I still feel that I'd like to learn more of is the fiesta.
Yeah.
Because I've studied so much, and I've come from a background where we organise information into little boxes and figure it all out. But there's something magical that happens with some of those people. Yeah,
So explain what do you mean by the fiesta? Because I hear fiesta, I think the party.
Yeah, well, it is literally a guy with a guitar singing a tune, but they're like little short stories.
Yeah.
And the key is to tell the short story in a way that it has a little twist.
Right.
Now, the little twist could be a change in the melody, a change in the rhythm, the change in the words, a little play on words. And the guitarist has to somehow magically interpret, understand, and to be able to accompany what's happening at that moment. And it's all very improvised. And in fact, it's a part of our performance as well. We do a little fin de fiesta at the end of our performance, and it's it's a moment for which I never know what they're going to sing or play or dance or what's going to happen, and so we have to respond and react to that. Yeah.
So what about the singing aspect of it? Obviously, when you were kind of fronting a band and that, you were the lead vocals and writing words. I've watched it of your flamenco a fair bit online. I don't see much or any maybe singing from you. Is that still a part of your performance?
No, I don't sing anymore at
all.
No. Well, we've been on tour for the last 2.5 weeks, and we stopped off in a pub in Kaikoura, and there was a guy who said, "Anyone want to play a song?" And I said, "I'll do it." So we picked up a steel string. I haven't played one in years, and it felt funny with my nails. Mm-hmm. And rocked out a song. I was thinking, this is fun. I miss it. Yeah. No, but when I'm playing flamenco, I'm just accompanying the singer, the dancer, and I've got a lot of work to do on the guitar.
Is flamenco something that can be just a guitarist, or do you always need the ensemble?
Oh, definitely you can interpret. I have done plenty of concerts just by myself. Yeah. I mean, it's demanding for me as a guitarist to be a concert guitarist. It's like what my teacher was saying before. You're more flamenco than a concert guitarist. Having been through that whole process and then spending those years with Rafael, was now I do a lot of solo concert work and all the etiquette that goes along with that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, for me, flamenco with cante and with baile, with just the song and the dance, it brings a lot of context and makes it real for me. And actually, to be honest, is a little bit easier because it means that we're working a team. The pressure's not just on me to play perfectly.
Yeah. And when you played at the pub and you rocked something out, what was it? What was the song?
It was a song that I wrote in New York called Home. Yeah.
So it was an original.
Yeah, totally.
So that little experience, does that make you think again, I wouldn't mind doing this on the odd occasion?
Well, I've sort of played around the idea of trying to mix flamenco with my guitar, just the technique really, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of new techniques, and just sing some songs and on my flamenco guitar and just naturally see what happens. I played around with it a bit.
Would it be looked down on if you were back in Spain, say for the next year or so, and you were playing in a pub on a Friday night with like a 3-piece band rocking out, playing rock and that sort of thing, and just singing and drums and bass guitar, and then the next night playing classical flamenco? Would that be acceptable? Would that be looked down on at all?
I don't think people care.
All right.
Yeah, no, there's lots of guys. I've got a buddy in Seville who he plays in this rock band. It's quite hard. They're actually really quite heavy. Yeah. And then he goes and works on the tablao and no one says anything to him. I mean, there's always purists out there, but, sure. Most of us are just, we've got our network of friends and supporters and we work within our networks and no one really minds too much.
Yeah, I guess I was wondering from the cultural aspect of
maybe it. Someone would say something if I then came up with a project singing in English with flamenco rhythms and then tried to get that programmed in a major flamenco festival.
Right.
In Spain, they might say, "Oh, that might be a bit weird."
So you've just released an album. Is it a recent release?
Well, it was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. Yeah. That's the one that's on. It's on Spotify.
Yeah. Thierry Marty. We did that 2 years ago. I recorded that in Seville with a really well-known producer there, and all of my own compositions. It was a real big challenge, to write 8 instrumental guitar pieces and record them with percussion and bass and in Spain and. But I'm feeling really proud about what we did there, and I'm thinking about the next album now.
Yeah, it is lovely. I've been listening to it on Spotify the last few weeks quite a lot, actually.
Awesome.
And it's really nice. Is it offensive, or is it off-putting to kind of say it's fantastic kind of background music.
I don't know.
Not saying that it deserves to be not listened to properly, but just to have it kind of creates an atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Sort of
it's
there.
very atmospheric. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, there are compositions that, and when you interpret them live, you've got the benefit of seeing the technique, hearing the melody. I mean, one of the struggles in a Spanish guitar is to create melody and harmony at the same time with rhythm.
Yeah.
So I have to do all of those three things at the same time by myself.
Melody and harmony with rhythm. So does that mean it involves tapping and hitting and foot tapping and that sort of thing?
I suppose I could pick up a guitar and show you quickly.
Oh, if you want to do that, we're down with that.
Let me just see.
Yeah, we do that, Tom. Do you want to maybe swing your mic over, Tom, just to give Paul another point to hear his guitar on? All right, here we go. This is the first. We had John Toogood the other week, and he had his guitar down there, and he went, "Oh no, I haven't brought it up to play. I just don't want to get nicked from the car." So that this.
Well, I did change the strings this morning, so they'll be a bit dodgy. I'll just demonstrate this thing. So a
little lesson. We can get this right down like this, and I just watch that doesn't click on the camera there. You want to push that a bit more there, Tommy? Just get that a bit closer, just if you can, and down a bit. There you go. That'll work a little bit.
This guitar's really old. It's from 1974.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is the guitar you perform with?
Yeah, so if you had a melody, you could play a melody and play it by itself. So if you had a guy strumming a chord, you go. But if I wanted to say I didn't have another guy to sit in there strumming the chords for me.
Yeah, just pull that mic right into your mouth. I know you're not going to sing for us, but just pull it right up.
So if I didn't like that,
and pull that right into you.
Like that, is that good?
Yeah, right up to your mouth.
All right, so there you go. So if I were to strum a chord, there could be some chords at a guy, but if I can't have a guy strumming chords and I got to create the melody, then I've got to do that myself. And so I might try to do something like a technique like arpeggio, which is like, so I could put a bass note in here. New string, sorry, Pat. So like I could do one bass note, but I could then have to fill that out a little bit with arpeggio, so I could go.
And so that gives the appearance of chord, melody.
Yeah. So
like bass, I'm hearing kind of chords, picking and bass.
So it sounds like there's more than one guitar being played.
Yeah.
And that's often the trick, because then you got to do that on a guitar, and then you've got your fingers doing crazy things to try and get around, just the different voicings, So if I just play a little bit. And that's all going over the compass, which is like in this case it's like a 12-beat compass. So I got this little.
So what you're playing now, right? How much of that is your own sort of composition?
It's all my composition.
And the techniques, and it sounds silly because obviously you don't invent a note, but the composition is that really unique? Would someone hear that and go, "Oh, that's very different"? Totally, is there a similarity to a lot of the flamenco? Like, I mean, it's a silly thing to say, but not that we'll bring it up because we don't want to take away from what we're doing right now. But, it's like that Coldplay 3 chords. You can play 50 songs using the same 3 chords. Within flamenco being so... I don't want to say busy, like busy's a bad thing, but there's so much going on.
Totally, yeah.
Is it really unique, everyone that plays, and when you can compose it yourself?
Well, I think I have a really personal style composing. I think I always have had a lot of personality writing my music. That's just like from the first month that I played guitar, I was stringing chords together in a way that made sense to me, and that was something that it's always been a part of my personality. inside of flamenco, there is like a code, like the rhythm. You can't break compás. There's rhythm, but then if I have a melody, I can use my own melody, and there's ways of phrasing that melody that will sound more or less flamenco. But I can do all those things and still stay true to flamenco. So someone hearing flamenco who knows a lot about it will still like what I'm doing.
So, taking a step back, what is the flamenco sound? Like if you said to me, what is the rock sound? You'd go kind of, the way it's strummed, the way it's a various thing. If you were to, could it make it, when you just said there, and I think you said you can make it sound more or less flamenco.
Yeah.
So what actually is it within the guitar, within the playing, that makes it more flamenco? Like what is, how would you describe flamenco to someone who's never heard it?
It sounds to me like the night. But I think it's like a night out with some friends. It sounds dark. It sounds happy and sad at the same time.
Wow.
In fact, there was this
so
really
there's a juxtaposition there.
Wow, totally. Flamenco is full of contrast.
Right.
Beautiful and ugly at the same time. It has to sound. It can't sound just pretty.
Right.
If it sounds just pretty, it's like.
So it sounds like flamenco is more of a journey with the music. In other words, a song, and I mean, like it's a silly example, but that kind of glam rock in the 1970s. It had, you think about Queen or you think about Meatloaf, it had every style of music within one song, and it was actually a journey going through their music.
Well, it's not quite. It's more like an Indian raga where a certain style has a certain characteristic. It talks about certain things. Like some styles are more tragic, some styles are funny, and they're just taking the piss out of people. Some styles want to seek social justice or talk about criticizing people or complaining.
But that's all in the music, doesn't have to have the lyrics or words?
No, it's definitely, well, it's reflected in the music in the way that if I play a boleria, it has to sound upbeat.
Okay.
It has a slight melancholic feel, but it's upbeat. Like it's like if I play. It has like a hop, skip, and a jump to it that you can't. But it's not happy.
No, it's actually really it's really
Dark.
full. It's really big. It's big.
And that's the harmony, man. It's like D minor, C, B flat, A. And it's just like everywhere in flamenco you have that same harmony.
So I'm really interested. You mentioned social justice.
Yeah.
Can you play me something that kind of resonates with that social justice thing?
Well, a typical would be like a natural fandango naturales, which is like a bit where they sort of, maybe when it's sung with a singer, but a typical introduction might be. And the guy would start to sing a little short story. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I mean, I mean, you know me, I've known you for 20 plus years, but so what I'm saying is not offensive in any way, but it reminds me of listening to kid stories back on the day, like on 1ZB back on the radio, and how important the music was to the story.
Yeah, totally.
Because I hear the music there, and in my head, I start thinking about, this story has some gravitas to it.
Yeah.
That's what that sounded to me right now. Like whatever the story was coming next, it had something to it, like as if I had heard it as a kid. Yeah.
Well, this comes back to what we were saying before about how to live something. So how do you create that? So I could learn those notes on a diagram, play them on a piano, and they would sound ugly.
Right.
It wouldn't mean anything. But if you have to live it in order to be able to express it, and that's the thing that I felt straight away when I first arrived in Spain, that I just couldn't stay in a little conservatory and learn notes and play cleanly. I mean, it came later. Yeah.
Was that still a good start? Even though you couldn't stay there, much like the band Soda came to the end, was starting in the conservatory still a good place to start, but very quickly it came to the end to move on to the next stage?
I preferred to do it the other way. Right. I mean, like I said, I did the course, I sat the exams, but I spent most of my time outside on the street, just living it. And then coming back to learn the technique, you have to learn to play the technique of the guitar. It's a difficult instrument, and when you want to play live, I have a really complicated repertoire to play live now, so I need to be able to, my fingers need to go where I want them.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's kind of, definitely it has its purpose. Having said that also, I think that finding the right teacher in flamenco, unfortunately, still is something that happens outside of formal education. The formal education, sometimes you're there really to sit an exam.
Right. So does the formal education sort of give you the qualification to say, I am now but the actual worldly experience is the thing that maybe drives more the soul part of it?
Totally. I mean, the education for me has been helpful for convincing other people that I know how to play, especially non-Spanish people.
Right. So then, in other words, you go, yes, I am good because I have this piece of paper.
Yeah, I've studied with this teacher who's really well known, and he gave me a really good mark.
It's like how I use my radio awards to open doors for interviews.
yeah, totally.
People go, who are you? And I go to my About page, and then they see the radio awards. They go, okay, you're safe.
Yeah.
For me, it's I'm safe. For you, it's your quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Especially outside of Spain, because a Spanish person will listen to me play, and they'll know straight away.
Right.
They'll be able to judge straight away the quality of my playing. Outside of Spain, but you're a Kiwi. I get it a lot. Actually, I get it a lot more outside of Spain than in Spain.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah.
But
you,
I mean, from knowing a few Spanish people, you have a Spanish look to you. I mean, slightly. I was telling Tommy a story that I've told. Thank you for that. That was wicked. And if people want to see more about it, tonight, Hanover Hall in Dunedin, 7:30.
We're going to be there with a whole band, with a dancer, a percussionist.
And before I tell you about the story I just told Tommy, just let's do this now. Do you want to bring up that event finder there, Tom? 7:30 Hanover Hall, which for people is at 65 Hanover Road Street, whatever it is, in the CBD. The dancer you have with you,
Triana.
She is a world champion.
Well, she's
won world championships, that sort of thing.
Well, she won some really important scholarships where you basically what these things are like. You go and you sit. They have a night and you have to dance. It's like a competition. So she's won some really important dance competitions.
Yeah, okay.
And has worked in the top tablaos in Madrid as a result of that. She won scholarships to be in these places. She was 18. I mean, she's a third generation dancer in her family actually, and when she was 18, she moved to Madrid and spent so many years working and dancing there. So she's brilliant, and I'm still learning and enjoying being on stage with her every night. It's so different. So.
That's really nice to hear as well. I mean, not to compare, but I worked in improv theatre for a long while, and it is I couldn't think of anything worse. I wonder sometimes about bands like the U2s of this world, who since the early 1980s have been playing one or two of the same songs every single gig. Yeah. And I used to think about,
He's laughing.
I used to think about doing the difference between doing a play and learning a script and having it the same every night. It's not quite the same, but similar sort of outcome versus when I was doing stage stuff, doing that improv stuff, it was always more enjoyable because you never quite knew what was coming. It sounds like obviously you've got a set list in that, but there's an element of who knows what's going to happen tonight. Oh,
totally. We have a set list. We have a structure to the concert because you have to finish in an hour 15. But then inside the dances and the singing, there's always surprises.
Right.
Totally. Like we never know what's going to go. Triana's improvising completely the whole time. And that means I have to improvise and respond to her, as best as I can. And sure, we've got the compositions with the guitar pieces are prepared.
Yeah.
Having said that, they whenever you interpret a piece like that live, it's amazing how much it changes from night to night.
Right.
Just even in the interpretation.
Yeah.
There's some safe ground, and then there's a lot of moments where we're risking things and we're trying to make something exciting happen.
Yeah. So the thing about it is you tend to come back to New Zealand every couple of yeyears, but this is the first time in the South Island bringing the tour.
Yeah, first time in the South Island. Well, we played Nelson 2 years ago, but we didn't go any further south.
Right.
So this is the first time coming to Dunedin. We played in Christchurch last night, which was really awesome. A whole lot of people came and supported it, and it's exciting for me because I really, one of the things I really enjoy about being on the road is meeting new people, making new connections and bringing this music to them, and seeing how people respond. We did a show in Whakatane, and in Spain when you do something exciting, everyone goes ole, and they can't help it.
Yeah.
And this one lady goes, woohoo! It was really funny.
New Zealand, our woohoo is your ole.
Yeah, I think so.
So 7:30 tonight in Central Dunedin. If someone happens to be watching this now or gets in time, if people want to know more about you, though, your website is Paul Bosauder Music.
PaulBosauder.com,
PaulBosauder.com.
There it is.
Facebook, Paul Bosauder Music. Let's have a look at that. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Look at that sexy beast with no head. and they can find out more about it there. And you have got a few more gigs on in New Zealand, eh?
Yeah, so we've got tonight in Dunedin, tomorrow night in Queenstown, then we're flying up. We're doing some guitar and dance workshops in Auckland this week.
Cool. So people can come along and learn?
Yeah. There's a sort of obviously it's better if you've got some level. And then we're going to be in Waiheke Island on Thursday and Friday night. Yeah.
Tough life, bro.
Yeah, it's tough.
I was going to say, when you see your parents or speak to your parents next time, you pass on my apologies, because one of the stories I still tell is one of my biggest balls ups ever. Don't know if you remember this.
No.
I don't know if your parents still live where they used to live in the 90s, but they used to live certainly on a main road.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling up outside your folks' place on a main road and having a laser pointer. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And I pointed it through the windows and I thought it was hilarious.
And my dad freaked out, yeah.
And your father freaked out. And when I came to the door all thinking it's hilarious and stuff, your father freaked out and gave me an earful, reminding me that to him, growing up in Beirut, spending time in Beirut, a red laser dot on the wall meant something very different to him than what it meant to me.
I do remember that story now.
One of my more embarrassing moments as a young
it would have
person.
been hard for you to know that. It was difficult for my parents. They came here in the late 70s, and they'd come fresh off the boat from a civil war and having to deal with a new culture and us young kids running around causing havoc.
Yeah. And your older bro was born over there?
Yeah, my bro was born in Beirut, yeah.
And you were born?
On the road in Kuwait.
In transit?
Yeah.
What does it say on your birth certificate?
It says Kuwait.
Oh, does it?
It says Kuwait, yeah.
Does that help with travelling?
No, I don't
Not
think
at all.
so.
You travel on a New Zealand passport, or are you on a Spanish?
On my New Zealand passport. No, it doesn't make any difference to me, really. I think when you have a New Zealand passport, travelling's easy. And actually, you may not know this, but my great-grandfather actually came to Wellington in the 1800s. And so my grandfather was actually born in Wellington. So we're technically fourth-generation Kiwis.
Yeah, very nice. What, then left again?
Yeah, they left, yeah. So he married a Kiwi girl, my great-grandfather, and my grandfather grew up in Lebanon.
Yeah. What about your personal life in Seville? What about any family, any love interests going on? What's the story there?
No, not the present time. Yeah. No family, no.
No? So you're actively looking, is what I hear you saying. How does your mum, because I know, Lebanese mum and stuff, she'd be all about family. How does she feel about her bachelor son travelling the world doing music?
Well, actually, the thing about my parents is my brother has got 3 kids and my sister's got 2. And so she's really busy with all of them. Right. So that's taken the pressure off me.
Nice.
No, I think she'd like to see me settle down and meet someone and move back home and everything.
Well, can you imagine? Is that one of the things when you say you're still on part of your journey? I mean, look, I'm not one of those people that kind of goes, oh, you'll be right. One day you'll get a wife. It's like, that's all bullshit. Yeah. You may or may not. You may want to or may not want to. Nothing matters. Yeah. But if that kind of thing did happen, is that the kind of thing that you could imagine would maybe draw you back to New Zealand?
I've always kind of thought that having a relationship with someone requires some sort of sacrifice and some sort of commitment. Yeah, totally. I guess I could see that happening. The right person in the right place. Yeah, why not? I'm open to anything, I guess.
I was sort of like, you're always kind of sort of my little brother a little bit back then. So I'm looking out for, there might be some nice girls in Dunedin. Who knows? They might be getting along there tonight and you might meet someone. Who knows?
Who knows, Pat?
Who knows? So what's on the agenda for you for the next wee while? Back to Seville. Your life in Seville, are you living in sort of an urban area? Is it that down into the square
I live
at
in
night?
this amazing part of Seville. I'm super lucky because I got this apartment about 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's right in the Plaza Alfalfa, which is really close to the cathedral in the old part of town. So if I go to work, I can walk normally to the Tablao to work for 5 minutes on my bike. I have lots of really good friends and good relationships, so we just hang out and go get a beer, and it's really easy. Life is simple, and it's really cheap living in Seville, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I need to find a space to create this next album. So I think I will try and start writing in Seville and see what happens. So depending on what other projects come up this year.
It just made me think as well, when you're talking about making the next album, is it a very different, like when you were doing kind of the pop rock thing, were you a lyrics guy first then music? Were you a music guy first then lyrics? Or is it a bit of a, dependent on how it comes? Because now obviously it's only music. Yeah. Is that a different process?
It's a completely different process.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the things, if I could say a little regret I had of mine about the whole creative process when I was in Soda was it was very inspirational. I would just sort of improvise songs and then try and hone them down. So you could say the music and the lyrics kind of came at the same time, but generally probably the music was in my head first.
Right.
As some sort of structure of chords or whatever. And then when I started writing instrumental music, that doesn't work, because you can be really inspired and you just get locked up in one little inspiration sequence, and it only lasts 10 seconds, so you've got another 5 minutes of music to write, and you just create this monstrosity, this Frankenstein piece of music. So to create an instrumental piece of music, you need like a framework.
Yeah.
You need to decide on the framework. I think you need to decide on the framework before you start. And so I tend to work in a really structured manner. So I spend a lot of time analyzing all sorts of different music before I start writing. And a lot of my pieces are written on paper before I even picked up a guitar, because I always get bogged down in making pretty sounds with my guitar. So it's a bit of a mix. Sometimes I'm singing stuff into a phone, then I usually get that melody or idea and I might write it down on music, and then I'll try and create a harmony, a structure for it, then think about what sort of form I might want for the piece, and try and think about it as a whole, like you were designing a building, as opposed to improvising something.
Because I'm thinking that what you just showed us, when there's sort of 3 parts in one song, one piece, does that mean you sort of have to write 3 separate and overlay them? Or does it all come like as one?
It's all in one thing. I mean, normally I would start with I wouldn't start with detail.
Right.
I would sort of like say, I want to write something maybe that's got 12 compass, 12 structures, blocks in it. And then I might say, oh, we'll have this harmony. I'll just try that harmony. So I write down the chords on the top. And then I'll say, okay, well, then I can do this variation. So I might put like a rhythmical thing. And so then it's like I slowly start narrowing it down. I still don't know how I'm going to play it. I still don't know what it sounds like necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds very mathematical and like architectural, but it helps at least to kind of structure something, and then I can fit my emotional content and my melody or my idea into that, and then I can always break it if I don't like it.
It is interesting because it does sound quite structured and quite mathematical, but you're also talking about how you sort of need to be looser and freer in that. So I wonder if the structure gives you then the freedom to work within that and find the creativity.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes there's a lot of creativity just even between picking between 3 notes, you know.
Yeah.
Take any 3 notes on a piano and just say, oh, what order do they come in? That's a great little exercise.
Or do you play 2 of them or 3 of them at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, let's just do that. That's really fun.
Yeah.
Just like take 3 notes. Where those 3 notes are here, you know.
Go for it.
Then we can choose like, do you like that one more? Or which one do you like more?
Do them again.
Or
the first one. What about you, Tom?
It's nice, eh?
Yeah.
So you could say we could like maybe that would be like the first phrase. So we've got to contest it. So it'd be like, and then we could do the opposite one. You know, and that's how you start. You know, like with a little idea, and then I think I might need a variation on that, so I might go somewhere else. And I can just put like the third in the bass, which sounds really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I can put the fifth in the bass, which sounds different. So yeah.
I find it fascinating, I guess, depending on how each person's brain works, but to me it feels like the kind of thing you'd throw a phone in front of you and hit record and just have a play and see what you come up with, but you're far more structured than that.
Well, I used to do that, and then it would take me 4 months to write a piece, and then I'd have to be like, oh, because you just end up like doing things that you like in the moment that feel good.
Yeah.
And whereas if I can kind of break it down, simplify it, reduce my options a bit, there's still plenty of room for me to find things that I like or don't like. I can still feel expressive with those 3 notes. I still feel expressive, feel emotional with. You know, I said I'm only going to play 3 notes, and that da 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 will be my rhythm.
Yeah.
So even with just saying 3 notes da da da, there's still a lot of room for emotion for me. Speaking.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, listen, I think we need to get you back so you can actually do sound check for tonight's gig.
Yeah, we've got to do sound check. We've got to make sure the dancer can fit on the stage and all of those things.
Yeah, but it's been slightly weird, but a huge amount of fun to chat with you, Paul Bosauder. If people want to find out more, paulbosauder.com. If they happen to be in Dunedin tonight, Hanover Hall at 7:30. There'll be some ticket sales.
On the door. Just come down. We'll make room for everybody who wants to come. Yeah. So.
And other than that, dude, what a pleasure.
Yeah, Pat, it's been amazing. It's been a long time. It's seen you in ages.
Give me some.
Do I get to press the fake news button?
Fake news button as we go out. Thank you very much.
Yeah.